Hey guys, so I'm going to walk you through Works Cited and also a little bit some notes about in-text citations, and what that looks like and kind of what we're looking for. So Skylar gets to be the guinea pig, so we're going to start with her. This is her essay, and you can see up here she's got her header, led by one, and then her name, the teacher's name, the date, and then the class. So the one thing she's missing though is the title. So she's going to need to put title, oops, whatever that is. And so this can be different depending on the assignment. It can be your own title or it can be the title of the assignment. That's something to find out from the teacher. I don't care. Either one you want to do is just fine. But having a title is important as a teacher, especially is going through lots and lots of papers. Also, you're going to want to make sure that your essay up here is titled Journey of Becoming Essay. That's kind of the title of the essay assignment. And then you also want to put your name. When someone's looking at these on a drive, you can't see who it is or who it belongs to very quickly. The fastest way for them to see that is if you put it in the title. Sometimes they'll have you put the name first. There's only 5 of you, so we'll just put the name last. All right, so we're going to jump straight to this first paragraph. Community can easily shape the people in it. By the time I was in high school, I was a popular kid and it showed in my name. Okay, so you guys recognize this as a quote from Julia Alvarez's Names Nombres essay. So it's okay to jump in like this. It's usually better though to introduce the thing you're going to be quoting or citing. Even though you guys know this, like jumping straight into it can be a little jarring. So she could just change the snippet from Names Nombres by Julia Alvarez. She could just move that and say, in this snippet from Names Nombres, oops, by Julia Alvarez. And you'd have to change the tense because shows how Alvarez's friends changed the way she perceived herself. So I'm going to put ... let her decide how she's going to do that. Names Nombres needs to be italicized, okay? And then down here, before you end out, you're going to put the parentheses, and this is where you'll put your citation. I'm not going to tell her exactly which one it is because she's got to do some of that herself. But it's usually the last name of the published work. Now, when this changes is when it's not published traditionally. So it's not in a book, then it can be a little bit harder to find. And then also sometimes if you have, like if say this Names Nombres essay, where you got it from was in a compilation of essays, then you'll often cite the editor and the page number. So we'll look at that in just another minute, but I want to go through the rest of the paragraph so I can show you other places. So it's really the easiest place to know when you need to cite is when it's a direct quotation. Okay, so anytime you directly quote something, you need to cite it. Okay, so moving on, whether it's out of a desire to fit in, the subconscious changes to oneself to please an echo chamber, or being introduced to new concepts, one rarely goes into a community without coming out different somehow. Now, if this idea of changing oneself to please an echo chamber was something that she got from somewhere, let's say it was an article that she read or a YouTube video she watched or part from a book or something, she would need to cite it. Now, where this gets tricky is when sometimes ideas become such a common thing that you don't have to cite them anymore. So 20, 30 years ago, maybe echo chamber was kind of a new thing that someone said somewhere that you'd need to cite. But now it's so common that it's in the regular dictionary. And so you don't need to cite it. So that's actually one question. If you're wondering, is this idea common enough that do I need to cite it or not? If it's in the dictionary, you literally can Google it. And it pulls up in an encyclopedia or dictionary somewhere. And it's not named by anyone, like it doesn't say this is a concept developed by Kenneth Burke, right? Then you don't need to cite it. If it's just like a concept that means this, you don't have to cite it. The dictionary didn't, okay? So that will help you if you're really, really wondering. Moving on, this can manifest in smaller ways too. I have plenty of experiences where new friend groups introduced me to new hobbies or where I subconsciously picked out on the vocabulary and began speaking more similar to them. However, it also works the other way around. People can shape the community they reside in. For example, when a new person joins a community, they may cause others in the community to rethink their preconceptions. Now, let's say for here, she had put comma, for example, in Jane Eyre, right? And talked about what happened there. So what's an example of when when Jane joins her cousins, I'm making this up, in Moorhead, they rethink, oh my gosh, I can't type today, their preconceptions about wandering people. Okay, this is a totally bad example, but I'm just showing you that. Okay, so preconceptions. Change the spelling there. Have we talked about Jane Eyre yet? No, this essay hasn't talked about that. So we need to go back through and be like, when Jane Eyre, in Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre, whoops. So see how I'm introducing it again? My computer will catch up. Okay, we're going to want to italicize the name of that book again. Okay, when Jane joins her cousin in Moorhead, they rethink their preconceptions about wandering people. That's a terrible example. Where does this happen? So if you have the book and you can like point to some pages where that happens, like maybe when they first get to Moorhead, you could do that. There's something more specific you're referring to. Maybe there was a conversation that you felt like this is where that happens. You'd want to put that page number. If it's not any more specific than that, like let's say we were talking about something really, really broad about, you know, Jane Eyre, a theme that runs all the way through it, you wouldn't need to cite it any more than you already did in saying in Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. You wouldn't need another citation here. Does that make sense? Now that my computer's keeping up. There we go. But if you're talking about something specific in a, you know, in a chapter or a few pages, then you're going to put the citation there. Okay. Does that make sense? Alternatively, the very act of creating community is shaping it. Religious groups, sports teams, fan clubs, all of the examples of how people can build and create communities together. Okay, so now she's going to talk about Kipling and Jane Eyre for the first time. So since she didn't actually have this here, I'm just going to delete that because that was totally fake. We'll pretend like, okay, now she's talking about Jane Eyre for the first time. A lot of communities are built around shared ideals and principles. Religious communities almost always involve a shared moral code. Sports teams involve a dedication to winning and hard work, and fan clubs involve a loyalty to bringing new and exciting things to the table. A commonly praised idea is that of sticking to one's principles or maintaining actions that correlate to one's beliefs. Now, she's going to quote this. Do we need to cite it? Probably, but not always. So here she's just using, it's such a common phrase, and she's using that specifically. The quotes here are not necessary, but they're not wrong either. They're fine. In the poem If by Rudyard Kipling, it's said that if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, you'll be a man, my son. Now, really quickly, I'm just going to show you this. Now, if you are quoting more than, I think it's, okay, here's the other thing. This is my disclaimer coming in the middle. MLA rules change every time they come out with a new edition. So the last time I was an expert on MLA rules was when I taught college, which was like 10 years ago. And I don't really want to brush up on them right now. So it's more important that by the time you guys start probably writing college papers, they could change again. So, and that's not by much, like they might change where you put the period for certain things. You just always have to look it up. So just because you're looking something up doesn't mean you're not an expert. It's you're looking at because things change all the time. So I'm going off my brain here. I expect you to look it up, and I will look it up as well while we're on this call. Okay, so if you were doing more than one or a couple of lines of quotes. So she's got if right here. Let's say she was doing 4. There are rules about what that needs to look like. And part of the reason is because if you're going to have 4 lines of someone else's text, that's taking up a chunk of your paragraph. And they want you to offset it so it's very clear that these aren't your lines. And so the rule is something like you're going to, I'll go show you, but you end up like, whoops, kind of blocking it like that. Does that make sense? We'll look at it more specifically, but I'm just showing that really quick. Okay, so if she's going to want to make sure that is this the correct way to put up now, again, because things change, do we still put poems in quotes? Make sure that's correct. But it's great that she introduces it. In the poem If by Rudyard Kipling, it said that if you, and you can put a colon if you like, you can put a comma if you like, you can put nothing if you like. Again, these grammar rules change all the time. And a lot of times they're just personal taste. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, ... you'll be a man, my son. Now, if you are going to, I believe this is how it is in the actual quote, but if the other thing is these 3 dots indicate that you are cutting some and then coming back in, usually. So if that was what you were going to do, let's say you were going to, you know, down here for a Jane Eyre quote, you're going to say, Rochester said, my beloved, I must have you. He doesn't say that, right? Okay, and then you want to jump down 2 or 3 paragraphs where Jane responds. Then you would put this mark, dot, 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 this mark, never. Oops. Jane managed to squeak out. This is why I'm not Charlotte Bronte. Okay. So that's what this means. When you see these 3 dots, we call them ellipses, it means that something's been removed. And that's important to note because, as you probably know, you can really change something by leaving things out, right? It's so easy to change the meaning of something if you leave something out. And so someone that's an ethical writer or content creator is going to make sure that they are letting their audience know when they are editing, taking things out, so that they can go and look that up. If you don't do that, it kind of indicates that you could potentially be misleading, and it's a type of plagiarism. All right. So does she need to cite where she got this? Yes, she does. This is kind of what's tricky about citationing nowadays. I don't have to worry about this near as much. There wasn't near the online resources when I was working previously. So we're just going to search works in text citation website. Okay. So MLA works cited in text. That means not the, the and page, but over here. Let's see. Sometimes I'm going to look at images because sometimes that's faster. Here we go. No author, first few words of web page title, one health and disease, but we have an author. So one author, author's last name, McNary. Okay, so it's not that, it's not wanting me to do a web page, it looks like. I'm probably going to click into a few more examples and make sure that that's actually true. Because, whoops, I lost my spot. So if that's accurate, then I'm just going to do Kipling, oops, period. Okay. And because of the way she's written this sentence in the poem If by Rudyard Kipling, it said that. Who's it's? Did he say it? Right? And so sometimes it can feel redundant, but you know what? If you have to err on one side or the other, err on being redundant and having your citations in there. Okay. All right, this line refers to the idea of keeping your beliefs steady despite how others may influence you. Sticking to one's principles is treated as a good thing. However, it might not always be. In Jane Eyre, we need to, there we go. Italicize that. Rochester believes that he doesn't owe any loyalty to his insane wife, and as such, he tries to marry somebody new without telling her or anybody else involved that he's still married, period. Okay. How much of this is like directly just paraphrasing what happens in the text? Does Rochester believe that he doesn't owe any loyalty to his insane wife? That's an interpretive call. You could make an argument that he does owe some loyalty. That's why he didn't just abandon her. That's why he pays for a really nice nurse. That's why at the end he tries to get her out of the fire and she ends up killing herself and he ends up getting very badly injured, right? Okay, so that's kind of interpretive. And we'd really want to know, where is she drawing these conclusions from? Is it from a specific chapter or section or paragraph? And then we would put that there. And to be even a stronger writer and a stronger analyzer and way more responsible, or what's the word I'm looking here? Credible, ethical, you would want to put a quote, some quote of Rochester's that makes you make that interpretation, because it is an interpretation. Anyway, and she could just put, I'm sorry, I should have closed down some windows before I started this video. Bronte and a page number. Let's say it's on 179 and parentheses and period. Oops, started period. Okay, now we didn't say in Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. We could have, we didn't. It's okay that it's here. The more academic you're being, the more careful you want to be about introducing, and depending on your professor, they might be more sticklers about this than I am. Sure, he's sticking to his principles, but in this case, they're bad principles that need to be changed. Once his lie is revealed, his fiancée runs away and his community ostracizes him. again, she probably should reference where she's getting that from, like where she feels he's, she runs away on these pages and he ostracizes him on these pages. All that said, I am not going to be that specific for you. I would like you to cite at least once each of your the pieces you were asked to, you were asked to use Jane Eyre once, and you were asked to use 3 other works. So you need to have like Kipling, you need to have whatever other ones you have in text citations. I just want to see at least 3 in text citations. Now, if you very clearly have something an idea you pulled from someone else, ethically, you need to make sure that you are citing where you got that A from. And in the next video, I will show you how to work up your works cited page.